Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of the All Rise podcast, produced by Gonzaga University School of Law. I'm your host, Ryan McNeese. I'm a proud alumnus of GU Law, where I obtained my Juris Doctorate and MBA. I'm a lawyer and business owner in the Spokane community. In this season of the All Rise podcast, we are reflecting on the theme of Go Forth, inspired by the St. Ignatius of Loyola quote, "Go forth and set the world on fire." However, during the recording of many of these episodes, we weren't going very far physically because of safety measures in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Regardless, we felt that now, more than ever, we needed to connect with our community. Many of these interviews were recorded using Zoom and similar technology, and we apologize for the audio quality. In this episode, Gonzaga School of Law Director of Alumni Engagement and Strategic Initiatives, Sarah Guzman, sits down with local artist and Gonzaga alumni, Ben Joyce. Last year, Ben created a beautiful art installation that will hang permanently in the law school for many years to come. In this conversation, Sarah and Ben talk about the piece, as well as how we can find community, even when we are physically apart. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned and stay with us.
So my name is Sarah Guzman. I'm the Director for Alumni Engagement and Strategic Initiatives here at the law school. And today I have artist Ben Joyce. He is a Gonzaga grad of '01. And we are here to talk about his piece, Go Forth, that he created for the law school and his artistry. And so Ben, if you wouldn't mind just doing a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. First, thanks for having me on, Sarah. This is, so I was, went to undergrad at Gonzaga and graduated in 2001. And I studied art as I was in school there, and I'm fortunate now to have made a career out of it. And just to see how it's developed over the past years, and to be located here in Spokane, but then also to be able to do business, if you will, in a number of different markets. I feel pretty fortunate to be able to do what I love and stay connected to the Gonzaga family.
We started this process over a year ago, and we met at your studio here in town, and Dean Rooksby was there, and Jessica Kaiser, professor. And we had talked to you about commissioning a piece for the law school and something that we could bring to the school to bring life, because our building was very stale. It didn't have a lot of things on the walls. So we knew when we wanted something that we needed to go to you, because you are the local legend and you have this connection of painter place. That's what your motto is. And we wanted to make sure that everybody was connected to the law school, either physically in the building and when they go off and they graduate. So would you share with everybody a little bit about the project that we worked together on?
Yeah, originally, number one, it was flattering that you guys, seeked me out to create a piece and such a substantial piece for the building. Some people out there know me for my traditional style, which is all aerial topography, but it's the bottom line and theme of my work is the connection to place. And so walking into the building, I was thinking, okay, is it going to be a version of that signature style? And when I saw the wall and spoke with you guys really about, the impact for the student, and of course there's a connection to place there in these very informative developing years that they experience at the law school there. It kind of dawned on me that maybe that the known style of what I do, that signature style, maybe isn't the best fit for a wall like this, because I thought, there's another opportunity here to be able to really to really send a message to everybody that walks into the building, let alone, the students. And that's where the roots, I knew after seeing the wall, and you're talking about a wall that's probably, 50 feet tall, I just envisioned this cascading roots depiction that I felt really, was the theme and the symbolism with a root system like this really goes hand in hand with the go forth message. Because really when you think of, okay, why is a student, in the law school and in that program, and it really is to develop, an incredible wealth of knowledge in the field of law, but then you take everything that you learn there and you go forth into the world. And I thought, really the roots is a great way to depict that, that moment in your life. And if you think about it, life, energy, knowledge, it's everything, that creates us as human beings. But where does that all, derive from? And so that's where, one of the things, and I had done a few pieces of the roots, not many of even my collectors have seen this style. And I would imagine, into the future, I'll come out with a show when the time is right. But there's an opportunity here to use this symbolism, because the way I see roots is exactly that, to where, all of that life and energy and knowledge, that base that you build originates from. And it's kind of like a tree. I mean, a tree becomes, this beautiful living thing that we all see. And there's such an immense variety of what we see above the ground, but where does all of that life and energy and experience, originate? And it's from underneath the ground. It's where, what we can't see. And for me, I think that really, represents what the GU Law School is that, okay, you're kind of the roots of, of these, budding attorneys and, anybody that's coming out of the school there, this is where they build that base. So now when they leave the building, that's the go forth and become, the best possible version of, all of that experience and knowledge.
It goes perfectly with the Jesuit identity that the school also has, and just, from Saint Ignatius with the go forth, set the world on fire. And so once that piece has come into the building, I think everybody has just become more awakened, and that's also a living reminder every day when we come into the building of our purpose and what we're doing here as students and faculty and staff, that we are impressioning on them so many skills, not only to be a good lawyer, but to be a good person and to go out into their communities when they graduate and to keep what we've taught and what we've instilled into them and then go spread it. And so that whole go forth and your piece has just brought so much energy to our building. And it's great to have a visual representation of what we try to do every day at the school with the students. And I think the students have appreciated it, and everybody who comes in, it's great to see them walk in and then they just stop and they just stare at it like, oh my gosh, look at this. So it's been really good, and we have been so happy with it. So again, thank you so much for, your creativity. Yeah, and absolutely. I guess also how is your creative process? When you started to do it?
Yeah, well, the piece itself is 36 feet tall. And then I think, I want to say around 20 feet wide or so. So first off, I'm fortunate to now have a studio that can house a piece that, of that scale. what I will say, and this is a piece that that is an exact example of being able to just let it go and just let it develop. And I had a vision in my mind at the beginning, and sometimes it's best not to overthink or overwork pieces and just let it develop naturally, because I knew something, again, on that scale, it becomes very difficult to see the piece all in one perspective, because you're talking about standing on one side of the piece, and the perspective of what you see on the other side of the room becomes so obscure that being able to visualize it all on the same plane becomes very difficult. And so a lot of this piece just came from feel, to allow it to develop, and being completely dedicated to the section that I was working on at that moment in time, knowing what I did, 20 feet ago or in the distance. And it was just a piece that it felt so natural to develop, that, I don't want to say it was easy, but it was so enjoyable to do, because it was that representation of life. And even for me too, even though I didn't attend the law school, I relived a lot of that connection and history through Gonzaga, and just what it meant for me. And it just was, it gave me a canvas, if you will, to just relive a lot of that experience, which, again, getting back to the root symbolism, is it's not only, in the moment of being able to, to create a history in a place, which, is one interpretation of roots, but it's also, again, developing the person for who they are, and that completely rounded, developed individual student that then again goes forth into the world. And that's what I've always loved about the Jesuit education, is the overall human being. And I thought, here you are, this is a perfect example of a way to represent and signify that okay, the base, the roots have been set now. And that's one of the reasons why I continued the trunk of the tree, the base, which is only 3 or 4 feet at the very top, and how it continues through the frame and beyond the frame, is to represent, okay, now the base has been set, now the individual goes and gets to decide on the tree they become.
Yeah, I love that it is only the tree trunk that you see, and how we can make up in our own minds what the tree actually looks like. And it could be what we want the tree to look like, what we believe that if we were a tree, like what it could be. And it just opens your mind to decide how it's going to be, but that the roots is where it all starts.
Yep.
So it's been great. So let's talk a little bit about the install. This is kind of like the behind the scenes also, I feel.
Right.
So this is a huge piece, and it was a huge undertaking. And do you want to maybe share a little bit about how you managed to get it on our wall, that whole process?
Yeah,
it's not just hanging on the wall.
Right. Yeah. And the law school is a beautiful building. One of the things that, was certainly a challenge was, number one, getting a lift that can go 50 feet into the air, through the front doors, which gave us about an inch on each side. And so it was, you'd move the machine about 3 or 4 inches and then go readjust. So, it took hours to get the machine, just, the lift even into into position to start the pieces. But fortunately, my brother was the operator, and with his finesse, was able to lift these panels. But he had to swing them, he had to lift them, in one direction, completely opposite of the wall, and then swing it through 2 levels of glass paneling and stairs. And I mean, it's just amazing to see him operate this lift. But then you're up 50 feet in the air, and one little adjustment means 2 or 3 feet of sway at the top of this lift. And so really we just took our time, and I am proud to say that we didn't nick or touch anything. So it was a challenge, but I'm glad that now, looking back, maybe doing the due diligence of making sure everything was possible, we took a few, some opinions that it was possible. Some of the pieces came down to within inches of being able to fit, with that swing and everything involved. And so, again, it was a team effort, but we got it done.
Yeah. Because I was there when the lift came in, and then I was like, well, good luck.
Yeah.
And as you were putting it up, the rest of us had no idea what you were going through or what you were doing. We would just show up, and magically it was there. It was like one day it wasn't, and then the next day it was there, and it was just amazing. And so it also shows like your craft and your artistry of not only do you do these amazing pieces, but then the presentation and how you wanted it displayed is so thoughtful and a part of it too, that I wanted to like bring that up just so people understand that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
There you had a lot of people, and you did amazing work to get it to where it was today, and to appreciate all of the,
right.
the details of it.
Yeah, behind the scenes, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, and that's where, the system that we developed to hang this and then a few other pieces on this scale, it takes a lot of pre-planning, but when you can get things set, it actually is a really slick way to install, again, pieces on this magnitude. So, it's a lot easier to work on the floor doing that stuff than, again, 50 feet in the air. So,
yeah. So is this the largest piece you've ever done?
No, there's one that's actually at least twice the size.
Wow.
And it's in the convention center, and that one is 75 feet long. And so that also is one of the geographical pieces. So more of my signature style work of it goes from Coeur d'Alene all the way to Airway Heights. So kind of the whole Spokane Valley and the city. And but another great project and opportunity. Again, I feel so fortunate to be able to do what I love and to be able to have these opportunities, but also finding the right theme and the right depiction of what works in the space and the message that it sends. And the roots, I've always dreamt about doing a piece of the roots on that scale, and it was just perfect timing to to take on a project like that.
Yeah. So now, so you are all about your connection to place and your connection. And so now we can't connect with people, and we're doing this virtually. So how has like COVID-19 in our times right now affected like your artistry and your work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I'm also, and what I would say, working on what could be the biggest project of my career, and it's a study of the connection to place across the globe. And it's a project that I've wanted to do for really about 17 years now, and I finally got the green light on it. But it's going to different locations really across the globe to just study this moment in time and what connection means to individuals, that live there. And the interesting thing is that we started this project last summer in New York City, and and it's so interesting because now I've been to New York City, we've been to Seattle, and I'm actually working on the Seattle piece right behind me here. It's kind of in the beginning stages, but when I was in New York City, COVID-19 wasn't even on the radar. I mean, nobody had heard of it. Nobody even knew that it existed. And so I was able to create, through these incredible interviews and really my own observation, of influence, I was able to create the New York piece, pre-COVID-19. And then we went to Seattle, and it was right at the beginning of the year. So there were really only, a handful of cases at that time.
Yeah.
And so there was another kind of perspective of just, okay, now it's just on the tip of the radar. And then fast forward to where, like you just said, here I am, quarantined to my house. I was able to get the piece here into my garage so I could work on it, because they're all 8 by 8 foot pieces. But the idea was to do 9 cities across the globe. And so now it's a difficult thing to process, because when I started the project, I was kind of going in one direction, but now this has pulled in a whole totally different focus and theme into it, which I also think could be a very, an incredible opportunity, for another different perspective, the perspective that we've never experienced. And how does this impact that connection of place? And so for me, it's a fascinating new reality on that level. We can go on and on of how destructive and just devastating this moment in time is, but then also how does this change, our connection to place? And so one of the really interesting things that I'm going to start reaching out to people is, are there individuals out there that would do just, maybe like weekly or daily or, one time, just a quick, self-interview, if you will, to say, okay, this is what I knew of my place, and now here's my new reality, and what is this time and quarantine and this new reality, how does it impact you, and how has it changed, those perspectives? And so one of the things that I set up an email address. It's just place@benjoyceart.com. And it's just anybody that's out there that wants to just submit any type of feedback like that. And it can be I would ask if it was on a video, little clip on your phone, to where, I can use this for inspiration. And what I'm looking for is the most diverse, study and representation of that. So it doesn't matter age, status, nationality. It's really across the globe. We have already a few people throughout Europe and then down in Mexico, and that are participating in this. And it's really fascinating to see, something that can so quickly impact all of us. But then how does that reflect in the life that we knew, and then now this new reality? And so, like I said, if anybody's out there, that would like to participate, it's just fascinating for me to hear, different, point of views on that.
Yeah, that would be great. Because as we were talking right before we started this little podcast, was that the building. So I'm in our building and it's empty, and my appreciation and how when I walk in I feel is so different now. than, you know, every day coming in, because every day I take it for granted. I take everything for granted. And now that, you know, we're at home and we're hunkered down, and now that you walk back into something, you notice things. Like I've noticed things that I hadn't quite noticed. I was like, has this always been here? I'm like, oh yeah, it has. And so you kind of like look at it with a whole new eye, and then just the appreciation. And then I just miss everybody, you know. I just the people who, not only we have our physical building that, you know, that makes it what the law school is, but it's the people, and that is what, you know, makes it. So
yeah, well, and I think that's a great point, because you know, I would say you know, I'm realizing that too, but just the power of human interaction, you know, and it, you know, fortunately we can do this, you know, online, remotely, but even that still doesn't have the same, you know, energy and connection that, you know, being kind of face to face, you know, it's just a whole different type of energy. And when it's void for so long, it really puts it into perspective.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah.
And so again, anyone out there listening, so Ben's website is painterofplace.com, and you can see all of the works that he has done. And then also on the GU Law website, we have where you can see the Go Forth image that he's, you know, the painting that he's created and is in our building, and another interview that we've had with him. And just thank you so much for what you do, for what you've done for us at the law school, what you do for the community, and just everyone who, you know, is inspired by your art and resonates with it. Just thank you.
Yeah, of course. You know, thank you for having me on, Sarah. It's certainly been a pleasure, and go Zags.
Yes, go Zags.
This episode of the All Rise podcast was produced by Gonzaga University School of Law, with assistance from our colleagues at Gonzaga Instructional Development and Design. A special thanks goes to our alumni and donors who continue to support our mission of providing an excellent legal education informed by our humanistic, Jesuit, and Catholic traditions and values. Did you enjoy this episode? Let us know. Give us a shout out on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. You know the drill. Or you can learn more about this podcast and us at law.gonzaga.edu. Thanks for listening, and go Zags!